Good morning and welcome inside the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community today. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned marketing firm who specializes in website design, creating social media ads, and engaging your brand online. If your business could benefit from any of that, check out pixelfiremarketing.com today. Joining me inside the Pyramid Contractor studio is Jarell Roach and Steve Eppenbaugh with Greater Omaha Youth for Christ. Guys, thanks for being here this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jay. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Jimmy.
Jarell, we're going to start with you, man. Can you tell the listeners exactly what Greater Omaha Youth for Christ is and how you're helping the community?
Yeah, man. Greater Omaha Youth for Christ is a dope organization that focuses on sharing the gospel with lost kids, 11 to 19-year-olds, and has been around for over 50 years, nationwide, international-wide. I think it's over 126 cities, over 120 countries internationally.
Steve, you guys have a heavy influence on schools around the Omaha community. What age group are you guys trying to target, and why is it good to be on campus to preach the word of Jesus?
Absolutely. So really we focus on targeting students age 11 to 19. And whether it's on campus or at sporting events, wherever it is, we go wherever students are and just reach them and work to connect them socially with their peers, just build relationships with them and be a positive influence in their life.
What exactly is it that you personally do with the students on those campuses?
Yeah, really, I get to tell people that I have the best job on the planet. So I have the privilege of investing in young people. We do that by supporting them, walking with them through the hard stuff in their life. We partner with schools, we partner with churches and other community organizations, all with the goal to help young people thrive.
Jarell, you mentioned it. You guys are kind of, all over the country, but you guys are all over the city and the surrounding areas of Omaha. Where are some of the places that you're currently have ministry in schools at Greater Youth of Omaha for Christ? And where are some places where you're trying to grow that area?
Man, that's a phenomenal question. We are currently in 49 schools in the Greater Omaha surrounding area, plus Glenwood. We got to add them as well. And then our focus, Steve-O and I, along with a few other brothers and sisters in our area, are focusing on the urban school expansion. And so that's that North Omaha, North East Omaha area, or whatever is considered urbanized schools. And so, yeah.
Why the North Omaha community?
Yeah, it's I think really it's long awaited. We've been typically Youth for Christ will tend to move and plant ministries where it is funded. And finding the funding sources for that North Omaha area has been, I don't want to say trivial, but it's been something that we've been waiting to happen. And so that's been waiting to happen. So as we are now getting that, we're fundraising, we're putting our efforts, our energy towards that area, and now we're seeing that fruit come to pass, man.
Steve, when we talk about the growth of Greater Youth for Christ is all over the country right now, and we talk about growth in the Omaha area. What does growth look like over the next 3 to 5 years, whether it be for Campus Life, which is a subsidiary, or Greater Omaha Youth for Christ in general?
Yeah, we're really poised to continue to grow into the heart of the city. We really have Omaha surrounded, starting in the suburban areas and growing into North Omaha, East Omaha, South Omaha communities. So right now we're really focused on continuing to develop programming and get funding and sites up and going in the heart of the city. The Benson area is high on our list. We're looking at different schools in North Omaha as well. We have several different irons in the fire, and we're looking to add 3 or 4 new schools just in probably the next year or two. And then the next 3 to 5 years, I'd say we'd really like to have programming up and running at all of the inner city high school and middle schools in Omaha.
Yeah. Can you walk us through what a student would be doing or involved with when they're involved in campus life, and exactly what is the benefit of coming to maybe an outing or doing something on campus?
Absolutely. Well, we offer mentoring. We're doing life coaching with these students. We're connecting them socially to their peers. We have an after-school club environment with games and really high-energy type stuff to get the kids excited and keep them coming back. We have different special events and outings going on, usually a couple every month, ways for kids to get out into their community with their peers, really kind of be a tourist in their own community at a lot of these different events. We're also taking kids on trips, too. We know that we can really increase the amount of time that we get to spend with students and the amount of time that they get to spend with their peers away from home when we get them out at summer camps and on different trips, ski trips. stuff like that. So there's a lot of different opportunities for students to get involved and get connected with Youth for Christ in ways that they might not normally get to experience.
Where's the coolest place you guys have been able to go?
Boy, that's
Both of you answer differently because Steve, I want you to go first.
Gotcha. Well, this summer at our high school camp, we took a whole bunch of kids up to northern Minnesota to Detroit Lakes for a week up there at summer camp, and really it's set up like a resort, man. It was super nice. They had opportunities to do everything.
Good call going in the summertime, by the way.
Yes, of course. So we were doing zip lining, rock climbing, we're boating and tubing, kayaking, a lot of those things that you would think of with a traditional summer camp activity that many of the kids that we took wouldn't normally be able to have that experience outside of being connected to an organization like Youth for Christ.
Jarell, what about you? What's your favorite trip you guys been able to
I would say the same, but mine's more environmental. It's getting out to the camps, but it's just when we get away from the phones and the social media and the constant
podcasts.
We'll stay on the podcast. No, just like, when we can get away from that and enjoy one another's company and hear the gospel of Jesus Christ uninterrupted. So I would definitely say the camps, but more environmentally without distractions.
We on this podcast try to stay away from two things: religion and politics, because obviously they're hot button topics.
Two of my favorite things.
Little difficult to do on this.
Two of my favorite things.
But honestly, talking about religion is one of my favorite things. Jarell, tell me about your journey with Jesus and how he came into your life.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty rad question, dude. My mom was the only Christian in our household, and she is the real deal discipleship maker, man. And we had a church that we went to. It was called Rejoice in the Lord. It was a Lutheran church, but it was hosted by pastors that came from the mission field. They were very expressive, very much into the Holy Ghost, very much into Lord, let your spirit move. And I can say I legitimately felt that and sensed that as a kid.
Crazy, isn't it?
And so that changed my life. And then I watched how they dealt with each other, hung with each other, spent time with each other, how they opened the scripture together in crazy potlucks, because I'm an 80s baby. And Mary Mentor opened the Bible up on Sunday school, flannel graph, talked about heaven. That's what she was talking about that day. Heaven and hell, not scaring us, but helping us understand we can be with Jesus in heaven. And for some reason, that opened my eyes up. And I just remember saying, I want that. Like, Jesus can save my life. And I knew I was an ornery bad kid, and I knew all that I'd lived through, and I felt pretty dirty as a kid just because of what was happening in my life. And she said, man, I can be with Jesus. He saves me and he'll lead me. Cool. And then over time, that has just been the evolution of my heart, man. And I still believe that thing. That same story she taught, I believe it. I look forward to heaven one day. I just believe God wants to use my life to usher heaven in on earth. That's it.
Steve, same question. I mean, I know this is kind of personal, but if there's something that you don't want to talk about, that's fine. But if there's a story you want to share about your walk with Jesus, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely. Well, I grew up in a home that did not have any type of religious influence. We didn't go to church or anything like that. Really grew up in poverty in North Omaha, and like my parents before me, didn't really have a chance or any hope for breaking that cycle of poverty that I had been born into. So, as a young man, I was a kind of a juvenile delinquent, and soon became a teen parent and a high school dropout, and really found myself in this spot where there was no hope for breaking out of the cycle of poverty that I was now, introducing my family to as a young man. But my entire family actually came to know Jesus through an invitation to a youth group for my son that was 12 years old at the time. So really the target demographic that we're working with, this is really an example of how it does work to reach these young people. Because what started with my son being 12 years old going to a Wednesday night youth group turned into my entire family knowing and following Jesus. And then me 10 years later having a career in ministry, which is never something I expected. So
there seems to be a little bit of a theme here. And despite my hairline, I'm actually the youngest person in this group.
But, come on.
There's you said it, and I brought it up on this podcast. There's seems to be this movement from our generation to break generational curse. We're finally talking about it. We're getting therapy. We're finding God. We're finding social awareness, right? Why do you think that and we're coming off one of the most historic times in human history with the pandemic and things like that? But why do you, Jarell, I'll ask you this first. Why do you think we've seen this movement of sobriety? Of finding religion, of trying to understand why our parents and our grandparents have kind of made the same mistakes. Why do you think that is?
I think it's twofold. I think I go back to Psalms 145, where the author said, He said, from one generation to another, they will speak of your splendor and of your goodness and of your majesty. Like, so we are literally showing up doing what he promised we would do. And I think the second thing is walking through a historical time. The Bible is full of historical events that shifted and changed the culture in a generation to come, right?
Sure.
And I feel like, dude, what we just walked through, we can't be like, you can't have a blinded eye to what we really need now. And it spurred up a series of conversations and a series of a greater understanding about our human condition collectively. And we're coming out with all sorts of means of addressing that, but at least we're coming out with the means. But I also feel like that gospel, the good news, the truth is still emerging ahead of those things.
I want to take a step back to something you said a minute ago. You were talking about the church that you attended.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about heaven and hell, and you said not to scare us.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that's ever attended a religious event probably has at least one bad story, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you're preaching, and I want to ask both these questions, Jarell, I'm going to start with you, and Steve, I want the same answer. Yeah. How much of a concentrated effort is there about what you're saying to make sure you're reaching the audience that you're talking to?
Man, that's really good. So, when it comes down to Youth for Christ, campus life predominantly reaches lost kids. I would say probably upward of 80% of our kids are unchurched or non-Christ following kids. And so that's why we really try to create the culture of you can belong here before you believe. And we don't mind walking into a conversation that way at all. So the thing that we're most mindful of is that one of our core pillars is faithful Bible teaching. So we just want to be faithful to the word, man. And we believe that because God is alive and the word is Jesus, we believe that when we open it, we're having a living conversation with the one that loves us, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes down to the mood or how we share, we try to be respectable, but I think you can still find respect and honor in the way that in what the Bible teaches. You know, we believe truth is good for us, it's healthy for us, and I believe it opens our eyes. That's what Christ came to do. He came to open our eyes. And so when we're thinking about our audience, we just want to deliver truth.
Same question for you, Steve.
Boy, that's hard to follow Jarell's answer there.
It was almost perfect.
Yeah.
No pressure. Go ahead.
I think for me personally, knowing your audience is very important. Obviously, the kids that I work with are from the same part of town that I grew up in, the same area, the same neighborhood. My kids went to these same schools that the kids go to that I work with. So I'm able to bring that kind of uniquely urban style that just comes with me. And use that to be able to relate to these kids and not only reach them with the truth and with the hope of Jesus, but by using my own personal stories that they can understand and identify with because they're so similar to their stories. So when you're able to say, hey, I not only walked this same road as you, I lived around the corner from where you live, and I went to the same school that you went to, and I faced all of these same hurdles that you did, and this is what my life looks like now versus what it used to look like.
We're catching up with Jarell Roach and Steve Eppenbaugh of Greater Omaha Youth for Christ here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. Jarell, let's call it what it is. There's a difference between what you and Steve look like, right? I mean, and we're talking about different parts of the city, and Omaha, for right, wrong, or indifferent reasons, is one of the most segregated cities in the country.
That's the claim, man.
How big of a deal is it for you guys? Because it's not just you two. There's a much bigger group of individuals here. But to be able to not only have a conversation about, hey, I grew up here, this is where I'm from, but also the flip side is, hey, you can see me in you and have representation of kind of everybody.
Man, I think the glory that God has given us is the ability to partner with him in ministry. And so one thing that we get to do in the difference of skin tones is rewrite a narrative or add to a narrative that says, dude, all of us need to hear about Jesus.
Agreed.
All of us are welcome to it. And we need to be able to consciously do this together. And so whether it's keeping that conversation, saying, whether it's being aware of that conversation, yes, we are different. And so now what? So let's continue to move that narrative forward together.
I love that.
And we can have a real rad experience through that. Good question, man.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we've kind of brought up in here, and I've told the story a thousand times. It's one of my favorite podcasts we had. There was a gentleman that owns DBS Burke. His name's Lloyd Elam. He's great. But we just started talking about the difference between the black and the white community. It's like, yeah, it's different. But how do we make it?
Yeah, come on. Yeah,
like,
there's so many more commonalities
we all know that.
too. Yeah.
Okay, how do we get to the next step? And
Come on.
it's such a great conversation to have, and I love having it. But as far as I'm trying to think about the best way to word this, as far as you mentioned the word love and acceptance a lot, and Steve, so have you. There's a connotation around Christianity right now that it's not always love and it's not always Jesus's word. And there's right, wrong, and there's no gray area. Well, a little difficult as somebody that's just a living human being to interpret Jesus' word, but know, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Steve, how do you make sure that when you guys are talking, it comes from a place of love and understanding, and we're here to benefit, not criticize?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people do think that more recently as far as Christianity goes. And I would say that, sometimes people jump off at the first exit, and there's different ways they can kind of get off of the road of Christianity. But at the heart of it is the love of Jesus and the Bible and what the Bible talks about. But some folks will try to pick and choose and cherry pick the parts of Christianity that they want to represent. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I think it then can get a bad rap. One thing with the LGBTQ community is they're so loving and so accepting, and people are like, wow, this is like a community that's on the rise, and we as Christians have to make sure that we are as loving and as accepting of everyone exactly where they are, because that's what Jesus did. He loved you.
Love thy neighbor, not love thy straight neighbor.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we want to love everybody exactly as they are. We want to meet them right there in their mess and just provide that hope.
Is that a difficult group of people to reach in what you do for that reason?
I don't personally think so. I think that we have. So our clubs are about belonging before we believe. Yep. We have everybody that walks to that club, man, into those doors. And for us in personal, like my goal, and I would say us collectively, we don't want to single people out.
Right.
So if you're in here, like everybody can get that smoke when it comes down to the truth, man. You know what I'm saying? Right, we want a place for people to believe. And we give premise for people or a ground for people to ask questions, man. And I think that's the thing that helps people. I wouldn't want to go follow a God that I may not know anything about. But if there's a faith stirring in my heart and I get the opportunity and my faith says, yes, let's go after it, let's do it. But I think the goal is not to single anybody out. Like the goal is to really make a door, an invitation open for anybody to hear the truth that he wanted everyone to know about.
People forget that last part. Everybody. Inclusion is important.
That's
you guys have a big event coming up Thursday night, Steve.
Yeah, we do.
At the King of Kings Church, 11615 Street here in Omaha. Event opens up at 5:30. Doors open at 6:30 for non-VIP people. Larry the Cable Guy's doing an opening comedy show for you guys. Tell us how this all came about.
Yeah. Well, Larry is a Nebraska native. He's also a Christian and a supporter of Youth for Christ.
Yeah.
And so we are just extremely blessed to have him be able to donate his time and to come alongside of us and help us kind of try to raise funds in some of these areas that have some unique fundraising challenges to them. So he did a similar event for YFC in Lincoln and is now lending his talents to us here in Omaha. So we're super excited to be able to use somebody who has such a great reach and a great influence to be able to help promote our mission, because he supports our mission and believes in what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Jarell, can you talk about how people can get involved, where they could purchase tickets at, and join the event?
Yes, please visit our website at GOYFC, Greater Omaha Youth for Christ.org, GOYFC.org.
Scrolling across the bottom of your screen now.
Yep, and you can also go to the event. You'll see it on the events tab. You can also go to our social media pages where you'll also see the flyer. We want you out there. Every single one of these dollars goes to the ongoing support and ministry efforts of urban schools. And we need you. Come out and get your laugh on with the epic Larry the Cable Guy, and we're going to continue to pad the night with a bunch of humor, because at Greater Omaha Youth for Christ, we love to have a good time.
That second part's important, because it's not just Larry on the stick on Thursday. There's going to be a dad jokes competition. Steve, can you talk to us about how the dad jokes competition came apart?
Yeah. So we do have a dad joke competition going on. Several of us dads on the staff, we've built up kind of a lengthy book of dad jokes. I know mine arrived in the mail just a couple of weeks after I had my first kid. So I've just been adding to it. So we have a dad joke competition going on, and the winner of that will actually get $1,000 donated directly to their program. So I have been, much to the chagrin of my wife, really loading up on the dad jokes lately to try to find that one that's going to hopefully win that competition. So
Steve has referenced this a couple times off air, but he's referred Jarell to you as the boss, and obviously you guys' jobs are a little bit different with the same mission.
Yeah.
Steve's on campus at Omaha Burke and does a ton of stuff with campus life, as well as Greater Omaha Youth for Christ. Can you talk about what your job is and exactly what you do?
That's really good. I'm a regional director, and so my region is really that North Omaha, Northeast expansion. So It's Steve, it's Tank, it's Miles, it's Justin, and it's Hope, and they oversee schools. And my goal is to come along, support them, lead them in their efforts. And I also am plugged into several schools as well. So we each have regions around the greater Omaha area, and I get the honor of leading this crew.
What is it about this group that I can't tell when you start talking about the guys and gals that are on your team, you light up and you smile a little bit. What is it about this team that just makes it feel it's great right now?
Yeah, they're epic. It's their stories and it's who they are. We are the Greater Omaha Youth for Christ team is full of brothers and sisters that legitimately love God and love people. And so the honor of being able to lead a part of that crew and get it in depth, like just more woven into their stories, their life, getting to know their spouses and their kids. Like that's a joy.
That's everything. Yeah,
that's everything, man. And so you
guys get a ton of love, by the way. People on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter are giving some love.
Thank y'all, man.
A lot of people know you apparently.
Oh man, we get around town. We get around town, man. So it's pretty cool, man. And so Steve-O, met him just as he came into the ministry, getting the chance to hear his story, but then getting the chance to see what he does. And I tell him all the time, proud of you, dude, because I really am. And not only what he's overcome, but what he's helping others to press into as well. So, dude, I've had the honor of serving this country in the military for 22 years. I get to retire next year. Thank
Congratulations.
God. Yeah, man. Thank you. And the Air Force National Guard.
Thank you for your service.
Man, thank you too, brother. And I believe what we do leads to real, true freedom inside and out. And so when you get brothers and sisters that are out there rolling up their sleeves and doing it and facing the rejection and doing the hard things, I'm just like, let's go.
We're catching up with Jarell Roach and Steve Eppenbaugh here from Greater Omaha Youth for Christ on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. I can't help but when he told you he was proud of you, you took a deep breath there. Is that hard for you to understand?
That's my dude.
You know, coming from the background that I have, coming from poverty and knowing all of those things that are in my past, that it ultimately helped shape me into the man I am today. There is
it's a journey, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. But with that, it just brings with a spirit of unworthiness that I think a lot of the kids from my neighborhood and from my community struggle with. And so it's always great to hear someone say that they're proud of you and proud of what you're doing.
Let's call it we're guys, right? Like
that is true.
We often don't hear that from other men. So yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
So it's something that I'm learning to embrace, and that's part of the journey of walking with Jesus is understanding that you are completely forgiven for all of the things that you've done. Yeah. And for a lot of folks, that's one of the last dominoes to fall as part of their faith. And so I'm constantly reminding people that also struggle with that. Hey, Jesus forgave you for that. He died for those sins. And they say, yeah, I know, but I haven't quite forgiven myself yet.
Sure. I think the one topic that has come up in this room, maybe more recently than any other, whether it be we're talking about business, finance, mental health, etc., is imposter syndrome. And why is it I'm not supposed to be here? And I think it's a lot of because of what you just said. Well, I've done this and this and this, and those are bad things. And I think everybody has that.
Yeah.
Problem is you're probably the only person that knows that, right? Yeah. And it's self-reflection, it's self-forgiveness, and a lot of the people maybe haven't found Jesus and found a way to forgive themselves through him as well. Right. And, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah. But it's one of those things that I think everybody to some degree deals with because, we have this, we have social media, we have podcasts, we see people get put up on this platform, we see them as this as these people, and we don't think we're good enough to achieve that. And I think that's where that imposter syndrome comes in. But to what you just said a minute ago, you roll up your sleeves, you do the work, you put the effort in. Usually reap what you sow. You know what I mean? And that's also for the good things in life too. Jarell, when we talk about growth and what's next for Greater Omaha Youth for Christ, jump in a DeLorean with me. Jump 10 years ahead. Let's do it. Let's talk about the Omaha area. Where do you want to see Greater Omaha Youth for Christ and campus life in 5 to 10 years?
Come on, man. When I think about the vision of our leader, man, we want 1,000 plus servant leaders reaching 5,000 plus lost kids.
Wow.
And we believe that when we can have those right numbers in the schools, we actually can help lift the school and lift the community. I just put a group text out to 20 of my mentees, 20 mentees, dudes I've been walking with for 10 plus years, man. And some of them are grown men now. And what if 1,000 plus leaders were doing that?
Sure.
And reaching kids. And I would say, to make it simple, those are two of the things that we hope. We hope to be in more schools. clearly. But being in schools means that we are bringing in other servant leaders of all different walks of life. Like they can have a Steve story, they can have my story, they could have been raised in a very good home, because we believe that's important too. I'm not trying to raise my kids the way I was, like with the stuff I went through, right?
Yep.
So like, and we want those individuals
Me and my
in
wife
there
were just talking about this yesterday.
loving students, bro. And when we look at a year or 20 years from here, that's what we want. We need more brothers and sisters on that front line with us.
So that's an interesting point, Steve. Jarell just talked about being in more schools and being more schools and being more schools. But one interesting thing happens at the end of every school year.
They graduate.
One class of kids leaves that school. How many kids are talking about coming back and maybe helping after they leave?
Yeah, that's one of our biggest goals is, as these high school students graduate high school and move on to college, we want them to come back and continue to pour into the students at that same school. Same with our high school students that are mature and strong in their faith.
That first part's important.
Yes, mature and strong in their faith. We put them to work with middle school students so that they can already start serving the middle school students in their community, and really showing them, hey,
cool.
when you make that transition and walk into the doors of high school, this is what it's going to be like. And to be able to keep them connected with their peers socially, and connected, and continuing to move deeper into the relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And several of our employees, especially the new ones, are from high school ministries. Like they've gotten grown, they've come back and they serve with us. We hope we set them up on those servant opportunities throughout the course of our time with them. And as they go to colleges, we try to connect them with college ministry so they can do the same. But man, we create that wide open door for them to come back and get involved with us.
Yep.
We talk about, you mentioned this earlier, we talk about the cool things you could do, putting your phone down, being away from society a little bit. When you're a dad, you're a youth pastor, you're trying to build, we'll call it a business. You're trying to build a business. You're trying to get in as many schools as you can. You're trying to form relationships in the community. Trying to get events to pay for all of it. Yeah. How do you balance all of those different things we just mentioned?
Yeah. I would do, for me personally, I've learned to use that word, juggle.
Yeah.
A real great teacher helped us understand that. There's a rhythm to it. You know the machete, you know the pinball, you know the bowling ball, you know the ball, the apple, the watermelon. They're all coming back around. You know it. Yep. You're going to touch it. You're going to put it over to the other hand. You're going to touch it again. You're going to put it back in the air. And so there's a rhythm to everything. And you're going to drop some stuff, and you're going to learn how to pick it up. And then when you elevate your gift, you set it all on fire and you juggle.
Yeah.
And then you do it in front of people and you juggle. And so I really feel like the juggling act has a lot to do with rhythm. The balance has a lot to do with rhythm, because I am all those things. I'm in the military. I'm a father. I'm a single dad. I'm a special needs dad. I'm a minister. I'm a pastor at our church, or you pastor at our church. I own a business where I'm traveling quite a bit. And so for me personally, it's how do I spend time with God? I can't say that enough. Two things, man. How do you spend time with God? How do you encourage? How do you take all that He's given you? How do you share it with the peers that are doing the same thing you're doing? And then how do you receive that same love and flow from people that are up, they're ahead of you? So like a Charles, a James, a Donald. These are all guys that literally invest into me. They're leaving messages for me every day. They're calling me. They're checking in on me. So, but my whole day is around how am I engaging God? Because I'm doing all this stuff. God, you got me out here doing all this stuff. I believe I've shed away the things I don't need to do, but how am I tuned into you? So prayer life is everything.
Steve, it's going to be hard to follow that up, but same question. You're your husband, you're a dad, you're a youth pastor, right. you're in high schools every single day. You're helping building this brand as well. You have a team that you work with. How do you balance everything?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you do is you got to make sure that you are resting first in the Lord. So you go to Him first, and you get filled up, and you have to be able to listen and interpret and be able to say no to some things. Sometimes we just have to say no to stuff.
You can do that?
You can. It's difficult for me, but you can say no, and I'm learning to do that more in this season in order to make sure that I'm doing the right things, because you can get too filled up with doing things that are all good, but if they're not the right thing or the thing that God needs you to do in that moment, then you can get burned out quickly. So you have to make sure that you're taking time to rest in the Lord, be able to listen to exactly what it is that He's calling you to do, and not just fill your schedule with a bunch of stuff that, like I said, are all good things, but maybe not the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, somebody told me the other day, if you need something done, just ask somebody who's busy.
Because they get it. They get it.
Yeah, exactly.
They get it.
Guys, we're hitting that point where we tend to shut her down for the day. Jarell, is there anything about Greater Omaha Youth for Christ or Campus Life that we haven't mentioned that people should know about?
Outside of the event coming up with Larry the Cable Guy this week, we want you guys to get out there, but we also just want to take time to thank individuals for their ongoing support. This ministry in Omaha has been around for some time, and it can't be done without your continuous support. It is Greater Omaha Youth for Christ. So youth are the reason that we're there, but for those that support us, you're the reason that we keep moving. Thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic mission. We encourage you to get involved. We need volunteers that have a heart for our mission. That have a heart for working with kids. Obviously, we need giving partners who believe in what we're doing and continue to invest and sow into our ministry. But we also need people to just pray. We need people to just cover our mission in prayer. And you might not have time to work with kids. You might not have the funds to donate, but hopefully we can get your prayers because those are super important to us.
Changer.
Well, if you've got time and you've got a little bit of spare cash, like Steve put out, you need a date night. This Thursday night, October 24th, King of Kings Church, 11615 I Street here in Omaha, Nebraska, 5:30 p.m. for VIP access. You can get that at the website scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. Doors open at 6:30. Event begins at 7. Dad joke competition. And, Larry the Cable Guy will be in the house to entertain as well. So stop by the website, scrolling across the bottom of your screen now. Get tickets and support this great mission. Guys, thank you very much for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you,
We'll
Jimmy.
be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, catching up with a new business here in town and getting their insight on why they started their business when they did. It's an interesting story. We hope you could join us tomorrow at 11 here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. We'll see you tomorrow.